The cabinet opens and the smell hits before the light does. Not the good smell. Not the smell of dried chile and toasted cumin and the particular dusty sweetness of piloncillo in its paper wrapping. But the other smell. The smell of something that has been in there too long, that arrived with good intentions and stayed past its purpose, that occupies space and contributes nothing, and that everyone in the household has been stepping around mentally for months the way you step around a broken tile on the floor, acknowledging it exists without deciding what to do about it yet. Your grandmother did not have this problem, not because she had less. She may have had considerably more knowledge certainly, more practical relationship with every object in her house. But because she operated under a set of principles about what belongs inside a home that the modern consumer culture has been systematically dismantling for 50 years with considerable commercial success and considerable domestic cost. She did not keep things she did not use. She did not keep things that performed their function poorly. She did not keep things that created work without producing value. And she did not keep things that belonged to a version of her life that no longer existed, out of guilt or sentiment or the vague intention to eventually find a use for them. These are 15 things that the traditional Mexican household instinctively avoided accumulating. 15 categories of object that the modern home is full of, and the functional home is better without. And the reasoning behind each one is as practical and unsentimental as the woman who wiped the metate before she stood up from her knees. The first thing is the excess dish set. The 12-place formal dinnerware that lives in a cabinet and emerges 4 times a year at most, occupying a full shelf or an entire cabinet section, while the 4 plates and 2 bowls that the household actually uses every day sit on a different shelf within easy reach. The traditional Mexican household maintained the dishes it used. It did not maintain a parallel dish universe for occasions that rarely occurred. When a large gathering happened, it was addressed with borrowed dishes from neighbors or with the communal approach of the shared meal where each household brought its own plates, which is a social technology that solved the large gathering dish problem without requiring every household to store 12-place settings of dishes it used 4 times annually. The formal dish set is not a possession. It is a storage obligation. If you use it fewer than 12 times a year, it is costing you more in cabinet space than it is providing in utility. But here is where the genius starts. The second thing is the collection of plastic bags stored inside a larger plastic bag. The plastic bag ecosystem that grows inside a kitchen cabinet or under a sink with the organic enthusiasm of something alive, reproducing faster than it is consumed, so occupying more space each week as new bags arrive from each market trip, and fewer depart because the reuse rate cannot keep pace with the arrival rate. Your grandmother used a string bag, a bolsa de red, that went to the market, came back full, was emptied, hung on its hook by the door, and went back to the market. 1 bag, permanent, no accumulation. The plastic bag cabinet is the physical manifestation of a consumption pattern that has no natural endpoint, and that the string bag, or the reusable market bag, solves completely and permanently with one purchase made once. The plastic bag collection is not a storage solution. It is a storage problem that arrived disguised as a storage solution. The third thing is the broken object waiting to be repaired that has been waiting long enough that everyone in the household has stopped seeing it as broken and started seeing it as the object that lives in that spot in its current condition. The chair with the cracked leg that has a folded piece of cardboard under it. The drawer that requires a specific lifting motion to open that everyone who lives there knows and no visitor ever figures out on the first try. The lamp with the cord held together with electrical tape, applied 18 months ago as a temporary measure. In the traditional Mexican household, a broken object was repaired immediately or removed. The temporary solution was a brief interval before the permanent one, measured in days rather than years. The broken object kept indefinitely is not a possession. It is a problem that has been promoted to the status of furniture, and it produces a low-level disorder signal in the peripheral vision of everyone who lives with it that accumulates over time into a background sense that the home is not quite right without anyone being able to articulate specifically why. Listen to me. The fourth thing is the expired medication. The pharmacy that accumulates in the bathroom cabinet or the kitchen drawer across years of illnesses, each one leaving behind the unused portion of its prescription. The medications overlapping and multiplying until the cabinet contains treatments for conditions no one in the household currently has, from prescriptions written by doctors no one currently sees using formulations that may have degraded past their effective concentration. The traditional approach to medicine in the household was the specific remedy for the current condition, acquired when the condition presented and consumed in the treatment of that condition. The medicine cabinet as a speculative collection, maintained against the possibility of future illnesses that might require these specific treatments, is a modern phenomenon that produces expired medications, confused dosing when someone reaches for the wrong thing in a moment of illness, and a cabinet so full of old treatments that finding the current one requires excavation. Keep what you are currently treating. Remove what you are not. The rest is expired inventory. The fifth thing is the specialty kitchen appliance that solved a problem you had once and have not had since. The bread maker used 4 times in the year it was purchased, and not once in the 3 years since. The pasta machine that emerged from its box twice before returning to its permanent position on the highest shelf. The juicer that was part of a health commitment made in January and honored through February. The ice cream maker that produced 2 batches of ice cream in the summer of its arrival and has been waiting for the 3rd batch ever since. The traditional Mexican kitchen produced extraordinary food with a comal, a clay pot, a molcajete, and a metate. Each tool worked every day. Each tool earned its space through daily use. The specialty appliance that sits unused is not potential. It is regret given a physical form and stored on a shelf where potential used to be. If you have not used it in 12 months, the space it occupies is worth more than the use you're getting from it. The sixth thing is the collection of mismatched plastic containers without their matching lids. The Tupperware ecosystem that evolves in the cabinet below the counter into a configuration so complex that finding a matching container and lid has become a task requiring the full evacuation of the cabinet, the sorting of its contents on the kitchen floor, the eventual discovery that the lid you need matches a container that cracked and was discarded 6 months ago, and the replacement of everything to the cabinet in a configuration that will require the same excavation the next time a matching lid is needed. The traditional household stored food in clay pots with clay lids, in glass jars with metal lids, in containers where the lid and the body were designed for each other and stored together. One container, one lid, no ecosystem, no excavation. The mismatched plastic container collection is not food storage. It is a puzzle that offers no reward for being solved. Forget the sentimental argument for a moment and consider only the functional one. The seventh thing is the clothing that does not fit, has not fit, and will not fit in the foreseeable future. The clothing maintained against a future version of the body that may arrive eventually, as stored in a bag or a box or a section of the closet that serves the current body's actual clothing needs less efficiently, because the future body's clothing is occupying the space. The traditional Mexican household maintained clothing for the body that existed. Clothing that no longer fit was altered if the alteration was feasible, given to someone for whom it fit if the giving was possible, or repurposed as cleaning cloths or as raw fabric for another garment if neither of the first options was available. It did not occupy storage space against the possibility of a physical transformation that had not yet occurred. The closet is for the life you are living, not for the life you intend to live eventually when certain conditions have been met. The eighth thing is the duplicate tool, the second hammer, the third can opener, but the fourth set of measuring cups, accumulated because the first was temporarily misplaced and a replacement was purchased rather than the missing item located, so that when the original eventually surfaced, both were retained and the collection grew by 1 unit without the household's actual needs growing at all. The traditional household maintained one of each necessary tool. When a tool was lost, finding it was the priority rather than replacing it, because replacing it without finding it simply added to the object inventory while leaving the disorder that caused the loss unaddressed. The duplicate tool is not a backup. It is evidence that the household's object management system has a location problem that acquiring more objects will not solve. Listen to me. The ninth thing is the decorative object that is not loved. The object that occupies a surface in a room because it was a gift, and removing it produces guilt, or because it was purchased during a period of different taste, and its removal would require admitting that the taste has changed, or because it has been there long enough that its presence has become structural rather than chosen. Your grandmother's house contained objects that were used, or objects that were genuinely loved. It did not contain objects that were present because their removal required a decision that had not yet been made. The unloved decorative object is not decoration. It is a deferred decision given a physical form and placed on a shelf where a decision about it should have been made months or years ago. Every surface it occupies is a surface that is not available for something that would be chosen deliberately, and a home filled with deliberate choices looks and feels entirely different from a home filled with accumulated defaults. The 10th thing is the toxic cleaning product collection. The cabinet under the sink that contains a product for every specific surface type in the house, plus 3 variants of each product purchased when the first ran out and the exact product could not be found. So a slightly different one was acquired, resulting in a cabinet that contains 7 partially used cleaning products performing between them. The same functions that one good multi-surface cleaner and one good abrasive cleaner would perform completely. Your grandmother cleaned with a small number of genuinely effective substances: lime water, wood ash solution, salt, the juice of certain plants, each of which had multiple applications rather than a single specific one. The proliferation of single-purpose cleaning products is a commercial achievement, not a cleaning achievement. The toilet bowl cleaner that only cleans toilet bowls, and the granite-specific spray that only works on granite, and the stainless steel polish that only addresses stainless steel represent 3 products occupying 3 spaces, doing the work that one good cleaner applied with appropriate technique would do on all 3 surfaces. The cleaning product collection is not cleaning power. It is marketing stored under the sink. So the 11th thing is the magazine and paper accumulation. The stack of unread magazines on the coffee table growing upward at the rate of 1 issue per month while being read at the rate of 1 article per season. The pile of papers on the counter that contains within it somewhere an important document surrounded by a protective ecosystem of receipts, flyers, takeout menus, and the instruction manual for an appliance purchased 3 years ago. The traditional household did not accumulate paper because paper in significant quantity was not arriving at the household continuously through a mail slot. The paper management problem is a modern problem produced by modern paper arrival rates, but the solution is the same one the traditional household applied to every category of object. Handle it once. Decide immediately. Act on the decision that the paper that arrives today is read today, filed today if it requires filing, discarded today if it does not. The paper pile on the counter is not deferred reading. It is deferred decision-making stacked in a location where it will be looked at without being addressed dozens of times before it is finally sorted, which is the most inefficient possible relationship with a piece of paper. The 12th thing is the guest room. That is not a guest room. The room designated for guests that hosts guests for a combined total of perhaps 3 weeks per year, and functions as a storage room for the other 49 weeks, filled with the overflow from the rest of the house. The objects that do not have designated places elsewhere, the seasonal decorations in their boxes, the exercise equipment that was moved here from the living room when the living room needed the space back. The traditional household did not maintain a room for the exclusive use of visitors who arrived infrequently. Visitors slept in the space that was available, arranged for the purpose of their visit, and the space returned to its regular function when the visit ended. A room that functions as a storage facility 49 weeks per year and a bedroom 3 weeks per year is a storage facility. name it correctly, and manage it accordingly. Listen to me. The 13th thing is the food in the pantry that is not going to be eaten. Not the emergency reserve, which is a sound practice, but the ingredient purchased for a specific recipe, made once that left behind a quantity of the ingredient insufficient for a second use of that recipe, but too large to discard without guilt. So it occupies pantry space indefinitely in the hope that a future recipe will require exactly this quantity of this specific ingredient. The jar of tahini from the hummus recipe made in February. The fish sauce from the Thai recipe that everyone agreed was delicious and that no one has made again. The specialty flour from the holiday baking project. Each of these is a small occupied space and a small guilt and a small weight on the pantry system and a contributor to the crowded cabinet that makes finding what is actually used daily more difficult than it needs to be. Your grandmother's pantry contained what was cooked in her kitchen. It did not contain the aspirations of cooking traditions she was curious about. Use it or release it. The 14th thing is the emotional clutter masquerading as practical storage. The objects kept not because they are used or needed, or even particularly loved, but because discarding them produces a feeling of loss or guilt or disloyalty to the person who gave them or the period of life they represent. This category is the most honest one in the list because it requires acknowledging that many of the things kept in a home are not kept for the reasons we say they are kept. The vase from the ant who is difficult. The exercise equipment from the ambitious period. The children's artwork in the closet that will not be looked at but cannot be discarded. Your grandmother understood sentiment and she honored it, but she also understood that the home is a living space for living people, and that filling it with the physical residue of past obligations and past versions of the life being lived creates a home that is oriented toward the past rather than toward the present, which is the only time anyone actually lives in their house. Honor the memory. Release the object. The memory does not live in the object. It lives in you. The 15th thing is the clutter of the almost right tool. The tool that performs the task it was purchased for, but performs it poorly, kept because it technically works, and discarding it, while it technically works, produces guilt, but which makes every task it is used for slightly more difficult than it should be, and slightly more frustrating than it needs to be. The knife that is not quite sharp enough. The pan that is not quite the right weight. The chair that is not quite comfortable. These objects accumulate in a home and produce, across the days and weeks of using them, a low-level friction with the daily tasks of the household that is difficult to name specifically because no single instance of using the too dull knife produces a significant problem. The problem is distributed across 1,000 uses of the too dull knife into a generalized relationship with the kitchen that is slightly harder than it needs to be. Your grandmother maintained tools that worked correctly. When a tool stopped working correctly, it was repaired or replaced. The almost right tool was not kept out of frugality. Keeping it was the costly choice, measured in the friction of every task it was used for. That the truly frugal choice is the tool that works correctly every time you reach for it. The cabinet closes.
Already better.
The
Three
smell
things
is
came out.
already
You know which
better
three you have
because
known for a
3
while.
things came
Smell
out
is
of it
already
while you
better
were
because
reading
three
this.
things came out of it.
You know which 3. You have known for a while which 3. And the remaining contents are visible and accessible, and known and used, and the space between them is not wasted space. It is breathing room. It is the space that allows the hand to reach in and find what it is looking for without excavation, which is what every space in a home that is working correctly provides. Your grandmother did not have a word for minimalism. She had a word for what belongs here and a word for what does not, and she applied them without sentiment every time the question arose. And her home worked the way a home is supposed to work, as a space that supports the life being lived inside it, rather than as a museum of the life that was lived before and the life that might be lived eventually, and every object that arrived between those 2 moments and stayed past its purpose. The cabinet is cleaner. The house is lighter. The 3 things are already gone. Notice how much easier it is to find the 4th thing that needs to go.